Hey guys, my guest today, Yvonne Smith, is a hypnotist who specializes in cases of PTSD. But not only that, she specializes in alien abductions. So join me and Yvonne Smith in a few minutes here on California Haunts Radio. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to California Haunts Radio. For people that haven't seen us before or heard of us thinking, who the hell is California Haunts Radio? Well, we've been around for quite a while, actually. We started out on Blog Talk Radio. We've been around for probably about 20 years off and on doing radio work. Started out Blog Talk Radio and recently made the change to, well, recently for me, 2 years, a year and a half ago, made the change over to this format. So we've been doing this for a while, interviewing great guests like the one we have tonight. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so, and I hope you learn something. We may go longer. Depends how things go. And I hope you learn something because I'm here to learn something too. That's my goal. If you're watching from YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. There's a little ghost down in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's what you click on. He's got a magnifying glass and a Sherlock Holmes hat, and that's our California Haunts mascot. And if once this is over, if you feel a need to look at the rest of our videos, as you can tell tonight, we're kind of covering a trauma thing, and we're going to be covering alien abductions and things like that. But we cover a lot of different stuff, like spy planes last night, which was kind of cool with Area 51. So we do a lot of different topics. I'm a journalist, photojournalist. My name is Charlotte. I got to introduce myself. Keep forgetting. Get ahead of myself. And I like to cover different topics. It's just not only, paranormal and stuff like that. I love covering topics. That's why we're talking about trauma. Some of our talk today will be about trauma. But I'm really excited that Yvonne's being on the show tonight. We had some technical difficulties, so she will be on by phone. But I do have things to show you, graphics of hers to show you. So don't stress out because we're on via phone. Okay. But if you like the show, please, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Push that little button and share it with 5 of your friends, okay? Share it with 5 of your enemies, 5 of your friends, because we're looking to get the word out. YouTube shows us no love in the algorithms. So we're looking to get the word out on this show, okay? Anyway, again, my name is Charlotte. I'm the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. We are based out of Sacramento, California. We're 35 strong up and down the state. In fact, we probably have one person in every county to cover. To take care of people who think they might have a ghost haunting their house or a demon or whatever it is they think they have. We have people available for that. And if we don't have people in a particular county, we will drive from the nearest county into that county to cover. Okay. We also have branches, or affiliates rather, in Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Hawaii. So we have a long reach, and we've been helping people for the past 25 years with their paranormal needs. We do not charge for our services. It's all free. We're just out to help and educate people. But if you feel the need to donate, which is cool, you can donate at paypal.me at California Haunts or Venmo, and then type in California Haunts, because everything you see here, including the paranormal group equipment, all comes out of my pocket. So yeah, so if something breaks, boom, I gotta whip out the cost on it. But anyway, we're not talking about cost or anything like that. I want to get our guest on so we can start talking to her about trauma. And then we're going to talk, and I know she's a hypnotist, so I know she's regressed people who have been abducted by aliens as well. So it's always fascinating to talk about that. I don't know if I've been abducted, but I've had an instance where I lost time on a highway here, and an hour later I was somewhere else from where I thought I was going to be, So who knows what happened. But I used to see stuff when I was a kid too, so, Okay, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get her on the phone, and we're going to get the show going. See, I always say I need dialing music. You know how like David Letterman had dialing music? That's what I need is dialing music.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Let me get this set up here. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I have been specializing in UFO abduction cases for the last 31 years. I also founded my support group, Close Encounter Resource Organization, or CERO, CERO, and we're celebrating 30 years of the support group being in existence. So we have a lot of milestones this year.
You also work with trauma patients or people that have a lot of trauma, right?
Well, that's it. Yes. With people who have had contact with UFOs and their occupants, they do display PTSD symptoms as anyone else who has suffered a trauma. So my first goal is to relieve them from that trauma, from the PTSD, so that they can, function in life as we all have to. And then secondary would be, let's see what happened, what memories have come forward, because this experience is a lifelong experience. It usually starts in early childhood.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I know, like I was telling everybody before I brought you on, is even as a kid, I was seeing stuff in the sky. Now, I don't know if I was getting abducted at night, because I was always, I've always grown up afraid of the dark. I've always been paranoid about the dark. Never liked it. And I don't know if that's why, but I mean, later on in life, I had an instance with a friend. I'm driving down the highway, and all of a sudden, everything changed around us. It's like we went through some kind of time warp. And the next thing I know, an hour and a half later, we're in some other town.
Okay, so that part of it, what you're telling me, my red flag has gone up. I hear this many, many times. People are driving, and just as you said, something happens. They may see some bright lights, or they may see blinking lights, or you say, for your experience, things around you changed, and then you are in another town, and I think you said a couple hours have gone by.
Yeah, about an hour and a half, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, very, very common with this phenomenon.
Creepy.
Yes, and I don't want to alarm you, Charlotte.
No, I'm already alarmed. I mean, I'm one of these people, I wake up, because of course I take a blood thinner too, a baby aspirin, but I mean, I wake up with bruises that weren't there before, so I've read enough books to know what the heck it all means,
Well, I hope that you're documenting everything, taking pictures of these overnight marks or scars. Write down anything that you remember. I always tell people that. So say you have a journal, whether it's on your computer or, when I started, everybody was actually writing in a journal.
Right.
Because down the line, you may want to look into these strange incidents, and to hear you have them written down. And also any kind of vivid or strange dream, recurring nightmares or dreams should be written down as well.
Cool. I'm going to make sure I keep doing that. Thank you very much.
Yes,
so
sure.
So tell me a little bit about, is it hard? I mean, when somebody comes to you thinking they might have been abducted, or how does that work? How do people find you, or how do you find people?
Well, it's a lot easier now than when I started. When I started, we did not have the internet. We were just starting to email. And the only time I advertised was in UFO magazine back then in the early 90s. I had a little article in there, and that's how everybody advertised, was, in print. But now with I have a page on Facebook so that people can find me. I also have a page on LinkedIn, and that's how people do find me. Of course, on my website, they'll Google my name, Yvonne Smith Hypnotherapist, or Yvonne Smith UFO, and then I'll pop up, and then my website is there as well, which gives out a lot of information. And the website also has the questionnaires that I ask people to fill out and email to me before booking an initial consultation. And it has an information page about, making the decision to look into this. And it is an important and very huge decision, because once that information comes out, once that toothpaste comes out of the tube, we can't put it back.
Mm-hmm.
So, that information sheet will let everybody know is if you're going through, a really rough time in life, and we all do, if you're going through high stressors, like say, buying a house, selling a house, a divorce, or getting married, these big events, wait till afterwards. And so, many times I've sent out information, questionnaires to people. I don't hear from them for a year or so because they said, "Oh my God, I thought I was ready, but I wasn't." And then they, I sent so many, so I don't remember. And then they get back to me, or they'll send me the questionnaires. But it is a very important decision to make because it's life changing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk about this, like you say, the stress doesn't happen really during, whatever's going on. It usually happens after. Why is that with people?
Well, it is, during the event, people are awake, like you were,
Mm-hmm.
driving.
Right.
You're confused. You don't know what happened. People will be conscious for a while when those beings come into your house or come into your room, or you see a bright light all of a sudden flooding your room. And then sometimes people will see beings within the light. So then there's a time where you're panicked, and then they say, then I don't remember anything after that. Usually a person will remember the beginning of an abduction, or perhaps the end of an abduction. But the middle, there is some conscious memory, but even with conscious memory, when they go into the regression, there's always more detail, and the conscious memory sometimes is very different than what comes out of hypnosis. Not always, but sometimes it is. So, but they realize with their conscious memory that they saw a bright light coming into their room, very bright, and they saw a figure or figures, more than one. They see outlines, or they'll see like a shadowy or silhouette. They never. I don't say never. They often they don't describe detail, like what their face looks like and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course it's a very frightening time. We're supposed to be safe in our beds, in our homes, and here something is happening that they can't understand or can't control. And that's where the PTSD comes in. So for many years, they're living with this, wondering, is this happening? Am I just dreaming?
Mm-hmm.
And it finally gets to the point where it haunts them. I get people say 20, 30 years after their event or events, like say they remember things from early childhood, and it's always the same, it never changes. And so they're finally to the point where they're tired of thinking about this. They want to know. They just want to know.
Can that PTSD also come in the form of like triggers that they don't understand why they have certain triggers? Like for instance, like I said, like with me, I don't like to sleep at night for some reason. I'd rather be up all night, even though I've been afraid of the dark since I can remember. But I'm just saying, could it come in form like that?
Oh yeah, triggers. Often, if and I have cases like this, if a missing time event happens on a highway or a freeway, they don't want to drive down that particular part of the freeway. Some don't want to go under bridges or over bridges. Something will spark maybe a snapshot of a memory that is very confusing to them. Dreams, many times these memories, hidden memories, will come in very vivid dreams. That's how the subconscious works, because a lot of the hidden memories are stored in the subconscious mind, which is much stronger than our conscious mind. So once those memories, those hidden memories come to the surface, and they'll do spontaneously, and then they will come to the surface during regression, that's when the healing begins. You know, even though it's frightening and they do relive the event during the regression, you know, but of course, being a skilled hypnotherapist and well-trained, I use different techniques and suggestions. And that's why with, you know, people out there that are thinking about going to a regressive therapist is to be sure that they have been fully trained. I'm in the process now of, I've scheduled my second training weekend for therapists who are interested in doing this work. Many years I've been approached at conferences by therapists asking me, you know, how do I do what you do? How do I do this work? And now I feel that now is the time to do it. So I had my first training session last October, which was very successful. And most of the therapists flew in from other states. I'm located in Southern California. So it is very much needed. You know, therapists, I'm hoping we get therapists trained all over the country, because I get contacted from people all over the United States. So, you know, for your listening audience, if you are a therapist and you've been wanting to do this work, or you know of a therapist, please go to my website, and all the detailed information is there about the training in June. And certainly email me with any questions that you have, and you know, at any time. And because this is very important. I mean, I'm feeling an urgency to get people trained, because, you know, of course I can't do this forever. I've been doing this for 31 years already. You know, I'll do it until I can't do it anymore, Charlotte.
I hear you.
I promise that.
I hear you. Now, when somebody goes into regression, if there's something painful that they remember via regression, are you able to fix it so that the pain doesn't affect them?
Oh, yes. Using different techniques and suggestions is very helpful. It will relieve them from that. You know, I usually will tell them, just tell me what's happening without feeling the pain or discomfort. Because what's important is to bring forth the information, for them to verbalize the information on what is happening at that moment.
Do you run into, you know, for the people that you have done this with, do you find that there are more abductions for what would be the hybrid program than there are any others?
And say that again about the hybrid program?
Well, do you find that, you know, when you're interviewing people for this, you know, not interviewing, but, you know, when they're under hypnosis, what's the most common thing? Is it people being abducted for the hybrid program, or is it for other stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, after 31 years of doing this and working intimately with people, I feel, and I came to this conclusion, well, not really conclusion, we can't form conclusions right now, but I really strongly feel that the hybridization program is very central to what they are doing, to their agenda, because everyone, almost everyone, I guarantee, has gone through the taking of ova, taking of sperm, having the women having strange pregnancies, you know, very difficult gynecological problems throughout their lives. And then people are shown these very tiny, very strange looking babies, and they are told that those babies are theirs and they need to show it love for it to survive, because they don't have the capability of showing love like we do. I'm talking about the gray beings that, you know, that I'm coming across, and that these are the ones that are doing these kind of procedures and agenda. They don't seem to have that ability to bond with these babies like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to abduct people periodically and show them the different stages of growth of their children and to interact with them. I mean, I have hundreds of cases of this.
Wow. And when you talk about strange pregnancies, what do you mean? Because you said strange pregnancies.
Well, they're hard, of course it's hard to prove because, women will be pregnant. It'll come up positive in a home pregnancy test.
Mm-hmm.
They'll feel pregnant. Their breasts are sore. All the little details about early pregnancy, morning sickness, and then about 3 months later, they find perhaps they're bleeding, or they find that they're not pregnant anymore. They go to the doctor, and the doctor tells them, "Oh, it's your body absorbed it, or it was a spontaneous abortion, or a miscarriage," whatever term that they use.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to, to note or say, well, that was an alien pregnancy,
right?
But we could only go according to taking that person back to when this happened. They remember being taken on board. They remember something being inserted into their vaginal area, something being removed. Those procedures are very painful and they're very traumatic, but it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. So we just assume, according to my records and data, that that's what happened. Mm-hmm. The person was implanted, and the eggs are taken at a very early stage in life. So this happens, throughout. Like I said, this experience starts in childhood and it continues throughout the person's life.
And another question I had, I know I saw a TV documentary the other night, and a gay woman had gotten pregnant.
I'm sorry, you said a gay woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you run into that?
I'm trying to think back in my hundreds of cases. I don't, at the top of my head, don't remember specifically a particular woman was gay, but it would not be unusual.
Okay.
I mean, and the part of this is, Charlotte, that women have come up pregnant when their husbands had a vasectomy, or their husband was, say, overseas, mm-hmm. In the military, or can you imagine? And she's saying, I haven't done anything wrong, and how do you explain that?
Right.
But the truth is the truth,
right?
And I just say, speak your truth of what you remember what happened. Of course, is this whole phenomenon and experience is very difficult on relationships, if you can imagine, whether it's gay or heterosexual. Mm-hmm. Relationship is a relationship, so it's difficult on these relationships, because especially if one of the partners doesn't want to hear about it, doesn't believe in it, mm-hmm. and it comes out in anger, because I think a lot of it is fear, like fear of the unknown. Like, what is she talking about, or what is he talking about? It shatters a person's reality, really.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to ask you about the gay women. Like you taught, like you said, women who are married to men that have had vasectomies and stuff like that. I mean, that would be a shock for any woman in that situation to find out that they're pregnant.
Oh, absolutely. And it happens all the time. So, and it's hard for them to talk about, and mm-hmm. but they want to know, men and women, they want to know what happened. I mean, are they crazy? You know, or
Right.
like, did I make this up? Or you know, what's going on? But they do have the physical effects that go along with it.
And how long, how long on the average do you think that they carry the babies before they're either quote unquote miscarried or removed?
Usually about 3 months.
Okay.
I think it's usually about 3 months that I have found. The baby's taken, the fetus is taken, and then they take them up to their ship, and they put them in these, like, I have lots of graphics on this. I just did a lecture in Denver and showed all this. They put them in these enclosures, tanks, I guess you could call them. Most people call them tanks, with liquid, and they're floating in this liquid, but just not water. It's a little bit heavier than water. Sometimes there's a light that shines through it, a pink light, I've been described, a white light, a yellow light. But they're floating in this fluid until, for the rest of the gestation period. And then they remove them, and of course they're wanting the human mother and father to interact with them, which they do. I have so many accounts of this being described to me. So it's a whole process. Now I know now that people feel that they have encountered or run into or met a hybrid here on Earth. So thinking, these babies grow up and, they become adults, and then what happens? Where are they? Well, some are up there somewhere, but some are down here as well. Because I have had descriptions of people saying, I've met this person, but, I thought he was kind of normal, but then I started talking to him, and it was like he could look through me, or he could read my mind. It was, if we walked by them, we wouldn't notice them. It's when there is an interaction or a conversation, there's something very different about them. So I told my audience this weekend, we'll keep our eyes and ears open, because I've heard this, that they do show up at conferences, and, I may have run into a little boy, a hybrid little boy in Roswell several years ago, and other speakers had said the same thing at that same conference. I mean, it sounds so science fiction when I talk about this, but years ago, 20 years ago, when I was talking about the pregnancies, talking about the hybrid babies, that sounded science fiction. Now I feel like, well, this is, I could only go where the research takes me. And now I'm talking about the hybrids functioning down here. So we'll see, and now with everybody having their phone cameras, who knows?
Right. Right.
We may be able to get some pictures, but then who knows? I think they have capabilities and powers that we don't have. People have tried, to film. They set up a camera in their room, and they try to film. This is for years and years. An abduction. Them coming in the room, and which sounds like a great idea. One of my audience members says, well, why hasn't anybody put a camera in? I said, well, how do you know they haven't? They have for years, but the camera is either scrambled when they try to look at the tape, or you actually see the person going up and turning off the camera, and they don't remember that. So it really is up to the alien beings when they want their picture taken. Right. I am convinced of that.
Right, right. And my other question I have too, as far as these hybrids go, is it just the Greys that are trying to create the hybrids, or is it the reptilians also that are doing this? The different alien races.
Well, I only deal with the gray beings.
Okay.
The small ones, the taller ones, you get on board. There's taller ones. Sometimes they wear a tight uniform. or cape. Also, the praying mantis type
Yikes.
work along with them. Every once in a while, there'll be a reptilian on board. They're there too, but they don't seem to be as prominent with my cases anyway as the others. And I'm thinking, at this point, I feel the gray beings that are producing these hybrids and now producing more perfected hybrids are the ones that can come down here and blend in. I'm thinking, how is a reptilian going to blend in?
Right.
I mean, unless they just completely change from reptilian to, human gray. But I've never been asked that question before. But it's interesting. I just haven't run across the reptilians doing this.
Now, you said you might have seen a hybrid in New Mexico. What did it look like?
Well, it was so strange because you don't think about it right away. But he was sitting. They have a room at the Roswell Museum, and I've lectured there every year. They have a room. It was downstairs called the video room, and that's in the middle of the whole museum. So one evening I was doing my lecture, but there was a little boy sitting right in front, and he didn't seem to be with anybody, like parents or anybody. I would say he was about 10 or 11 years old. He had a lot of hair, but it was like, it was almost like a wig that didn't fit quite right. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I noticed his hair. But it wasn't, I mean, you look at him and he looked normal. He looked like a human. But it wasn't until the Q&A, and he asked me a couple questions because I showed a triangular shaped mark, several of them that come up overnight. And the way he asked, I cannot remember exactly what he said. It was years ago, but the way he asked about, have these marks been analyzed by a scientist? I mean, the way he asked the question and about analysis and the procedure, I mean, it wasn't a question how a 10-year-old would ask. And I was taken aback by it. And it wasn't until a fellow lecturer, Ron Regier, who also lectures there every year, he came to me and he said, "Did you just have that little boy in your lecture?" I said, "Yes." And he had lectured in the room upstairs, and he said he was there too, and he found him to be very different. So a couple of audience members kind of looked at him and they noticed him, and this lady followed him out the museum trying to take a picture of him. I don't think she was able to, but she said he wasn't with anybody. He just walked out, by himself, and he didn't act like he was with anybody. He wasn't interacting like you know how you notice they're interacting with their parents or a family member or something. So that was something that I think I'll always remember. And I thought, well, gee, it could have been a hybrid. Why not?
Sure.
Billy seemed very interested in what I was saying, and he sat right in front, and he sat right in front of Ron in Ron's lecture as well. But I've had cases where experiencers have felt that one of them in particular said he went to a UFO lecture here locally, and there was this little blonde girl, like young girl. Oh, she may have been a preteen, and I think she was asking him questions, and she wanted to sit next to him. And there was, I'm trying to think, because he had told me that it just struck him very odd, the way she was trying to interact with him. Like, she was very interested in him. And his wife even said, yeah, it was, kind of strange. She wanted to sit with us. And he just felt later that he thought that could have been my hybrid daughter.
Hmm.
But then she left suddenly for some reason, and I cannot recall. Something happened, or I know he said there was a helicopter above the building, and which often happens. But she left. All of a sudden, she was gone. So just little things like this that have happened that I have come across in my work, and in this work, I have to keep open to any possibility, because right now, we could draw a lot of theories, but we cannot draw a lot of conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think you have an answer, and then you turn around and something else happens, and then you come up with more questions. So I'm hoping that we'll get an answer in our lifetime. I keep asking them, but I haven't had any answers yet. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. In the 30 years or so that you've been doing this, what's the most common thread that you've seen?
Oh my goodness. Well, very common, just as you described your own experience of driving and being in a different location hours later. That is very common, the missing time cases. And these people are wide awake, like you were, they weren't dreaming or hallucinating or anything. Also, we call them, in the past, the bedroom visitations, as I mentioned before, the bright light coming in, beings within the light, and then there's a blackout period. When they find themselves on the craft is described the same, just very sterile, large round room, or even sometimes it's a smaller round room, depending on how big the ship is. But they said it's very sterile. There's always the table that they're made to lie on, and then the procedures. I had a lecture for many years that I called Anatomy of an Abduction, and it went from A through Z of what happens during the examinations, those procedures. There always is a long needle-like instrument. They will start from the feet many times and move up the body. They'll manipulate the back. The head procedures as well are very, very common, and find that on almost everybody. Needles going into the ears, to the top of the head, to the back of the head. And years ago when I started, I worked very closely with Bud Hopkins, who was considered the pioneer of abduction research. In fact, he was my mentor. Back many years ago, he'd had a couple of x-rays of an object in someone's nose. It almost looked like a corkscrew. But, when the needles go up the nasal cavity, we discovered that they were implanting those abductees and experiencers.
Wow.
Sometimes they come out in an x-ray, sometimes they don't, or
Right.
an MRI. If they're metal-like, they'll show up in an x-ray. But, again, not always. My colleague and friend, Dr. Roger Lear, who unfortunately passed away several years ago, had performed some extractions. Now, he was a podiatrist, so he could only work on the feet, but he had a colleague who was able to remove them from other parts of the body. And I believe there were 17 surgeries that he did, and I observed a few of them. I was able to be there, which is very interesting. And he had them analyzed. And I have the reports. There was a couple of, one in particular of my book, the Coronado incident, where there was a mass abduction. I interviewed him for the book, and then he told me about the analysis that was done on an object that was taken out of a leg. And so I I have the actual analysis in the book. But now with Roger being gone, I have been looking for a board-certified surgeon, and then labs that I can work with. But, all this, of course, takes money.
Right.
And money, we don't have money. The experiencers of abductees don't have many times. And a lot of this research is done out of pocket. So, Roger was able to get benefactors for some of these surgeries because the equipment that he had to rent was very expensive. So we run into all of these, problems. I mean, like to have more analyzed, and if someone wants to step up and donate their, time and money, and that would be great. I tell people you don't get into UFO research for the money. That's for sure. You do it for the passion, the work, the passion for finding the truth, and in my case, to help people live a normal life with this.
Right. Now, when we talk about these implants, I had heard, about Mr. Lear, and how sometimes when he would go in to remove the implants would move.
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
There were times when he went in, or I don't know if it was Mr. Lear or another doctor that was doing these removals, but they had said that, I had read that when they had gone in to get to remove these implants, that the implants would like move in the body.
Yes. I saw one do that because it was on camera. He had what he would call a C-arm that he had to rent for the surgery that would come over the area where he was removing the implant.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, when he approached it, it moved. And I believe Whitley Strieber, who I know very well for years, said the same thing. I believe it's the one in his ear. And it moved when, I think it was Roger that came close to it. And he decided not to have it removed. And I have an object in my knee that I've had for several years. I don't know how it got in there. I don't have a scar, which is very typical. Well, I had Roger look at it and he could feel it right under the skin. It's perfectly round. And when we were in Roswell one year, and I had just discovered it, we went into another room, and I said, what do you think? And he thought it was something anomalous, and he said that he had a patient who had the same type. It felt the same way in the same part of her leg. So I had it. His colleague X-rayed it, different sides, and nothing came out on the X-ray, which was not surprising. But he said it's not anything that's a cyst or anything that's attached to any type of bone or what do you call it, skin or anything like that you think, okay, it's something that's normal, Then I had a psychic, a friend of mine, a friend of Roger's. We were at a conference, and I wanted to know what she felt about it, because I don't remember anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was sitting on the bed in my room, in my hotel room, and she came, and she came close to it, and the thing moved.
Ooh.
Yeah, the thing moved. This is the first time I've ever shared this on the air, Charlotte. So
we got an exclusive, guys.
But I think it's important, to share your experiences. I mean, people are coming forward now. People that are in my support group that are, retired lawyers, retired attorney generals. People are coming forward that feel that they're tired of living a secret or a lie. And so a few years ago, I decided it was time for me, because when I was working with Bud Hopkins, he cautioned me. He said, don't talk about your own experiences when you're doing an interview, just come out as you're a therapist, and so people don't think you're losing objectivity.
Right.
Which I didn't for years and years, and it wasn't until a few years ago that I decided it's time. You know, I respected him in his wishes while he was here with us, and now that I see other people coming forward, and we're so many things are happening now that I think we're getting closer to telling the general public that, look, we've been right all along. Something is happening here. You know, there's things flying around that our government and the military can't explain, and they're real.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I decided to share, since we were talking about implants, but they do move, because I've had that experience myself.
I have a question in the chat room, and the question is, if an implant is removed, do the aliens leave the person alone?
Wait a minute. If the implant is removed, what it was that?
Do the aliens still come to get them?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And that's another thing. I've had 2 cases that shared. They both had their implants removed. Jesse, he double abduction with his brother John when they were children. He had it in his body for over 30 years. He decided he wanted it removed because it was really bothering him. It was, uncomfortable right under his skin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, subsequently, he had another abduction. The beings were not happy when they couldn't find it, so they implanted him again. He had a very rough abduction. In fact, the next morning I talked to him the next day, but the next morning he was sick to his stomach. For whatever, I think they injected him with something that made him really sick. I mean, I don't want to be graphic, but you could tell when he was in the restroom. The other one, she was the subject of one of the abductees in the Coronado incident. She too had it removed. Roger removed it, and she too had a very rough abduction afterwards. And they'll usually implant the person in a place where it's much harder to get to, like closer to the brain.
Interesting. One of our listeners today says she had a weird anomaly removed, and the doc was perplexed about what it was. It moved around in her leg, and she says it was in the 80s. The doc put it in a vial, and she never heard a word, and she never thought to ask.
Yeah, I've heard that before too, and she never kept it.
No.
Okay. They did. The doctor said or told her that they sent it out for analysis.
I don't know. She said she never bothered to ask. I don't think she heard another word about it.
You know what's really funny about that too? I've heard stories like that. That the doctors are perplexed, but then they don't know what happened to it afterwards. But oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry. I think it's a senior moment. So she said she said that
they did.
She didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't know. They put it in a vial. Let's see if she's got a follow-up here.
Another, what happens too, and I think people are programmed to do this. I've had people sneeze something out of their nose.
Right.
And right away they'll look at it and throw it, like one flushed it down.
Right.
It went through it in the trash. And it was just they didn't even think about it. They just want to get rid of it. And I think they were programmed to do that. I'm convinced of it.
See, she says she's always been alien obsessed too. So who knows?
She's always been what?
Alien obsessed.
Oh, okay. Well,
so who knows?
I would ask her, has she had strange experiences since childhood? Getting into her family history, because it does run in the family as well.
What do you think they're doing this for? Why
Well,
why are they
that's
doing
always the $1,000,000 question. I'm always asked that. Like I said, all we could do is have theories. I mean, like as I mentioned earlier, I feel that the hybridization program and the creating of these hybrids, so that they can live, down here among us, I think is very, very central to what they're doing. I don't feel that they're down here to take us over. I think they're very concerned about our planet. Abductees and experiencers have been given messages throughout their experiences when they're taken, that they're either shown pictures or they're implanted with visions of our planet being destroyed and deforestation, and things that are happening now. And so I think they've been very concerned. I mean, to the point where in the 60s, I think it was in about 7 Air Force installations, they shut down all the ICBMs, which was, I feel, a huge message to us. They don't like us playing around with nuclear weapons. We're dumb humans. We don't know what we're doing.
Right.
And because once we start messing around with that, it's going to affect the rest of the universe and universes. And I feel that they have been very concerned about that. So I know they love our planet, and they want us to take care of it. They can't really intervene, swoop down here and save us from ourselves. But I think if we get to the point where we're going to start blowing each other up with our nuclear weapons, they will intervene for the good, of all. So when I want to tell the audience, which this sounds so simplistic, but these are the messages that people have been getting, is just put out your energy of love all over the world. We have to make a chain of love all over the world, especially what's happening now. We all know what's happening now with Russia, what they're doing. But they have told us that we can reverse negative things, and that we can do it with love. And it sounds almost ridiculous when I say it, but think about, my support group. We do a prayer when one of our members is sick, or we've had a death, or we've had somebody that's critical. We do, what call it the power of prayer. We call it the power of positive thinking. Putting our intention out there. I mean, we're very strong. We're all very strong, and our minds are strong. So I encourage everybody to do that, because this is what my support group is doing. We're doing a meditation about every couple months to put the good out there, and that's what I want to tell the audience now. I've been doing this long enough to see the changes in what's been happening, and now, paying attention to what our alien being friends have been trying to tell us for so many years.
Now, you think you encountered a hybrid back in New Mexico. The people that you've put under hypnosis, how did they describe these children they're seeing?
Very often describing them as very thin, almost sickly. Not like our newborn babies, like are pink and, they're healthy looking. They're normally will often have no hair, which is our human babies that happens to. But if they do, it's very sparse. And as they grow into adolescence, the hair is very sparse, as if they look like they're a cancer patient. That's often described to me. Their eyes look like ours, but they're bigger. Very small nose, small mouth, small, just small ears. Enough, they'll look human enough. Like I said, if they come down here, we won't notice right away. And these babies, these children, hybrids have been perfected over the years because when women and men were describing them on the craft, I mean, they really looked alien. I mean, I have one client that described the babies like I felt like I was hugging spiders.
Ew.
You know, it was just because she had to look away, and she felt bad because she goes, I felt like I was rejecting them. Those are my children.
Yeah.
And she was emotional and crying because she said, how can I reject them, but I can't even look at them. So so they're being perfected. They have been perfected over the years. So everybody keep your eyes and ears open. I do think they're among us.
Well, the question I have too along that line is that when you talk about like this woman that kind of said she saw spiders, and that's obvious to me. It's not just the Greys that are doing the impregnation either, because there's these different alien species.
Well, there are many, but
yeah.
She didn't see spiders. She felt because they were very thin.
Oh, okay.
And when she was a child, and even my young son, he would tell me, Mom, there's a spider that comes in my room and stands in the corner and talks to me. So children often will describe these beings as spider-like.
Mm-hmm.
Because, think about it. Look at the being that came out of the ship at the end of Close Encounter of the Third Kind.
Oh, yeah.
How tall and spindly he was. When my son, who was about 5 or 6 years old at the time, maybe a little bit older, I remember we watched that last part, and he came and sat by me on the couch. He said, Mom, that's what the spider looks like. Oh, my God. And I was just getting into my work, and I came to the realization that my own son was having these experiences.
That's me for watching too much Star Wars. Now, do people, and I've also heard stories also, and I'm just trying to verify with you because, of course, you've spent 30 years doing this. People have said that they've also seen their children in different ages of life, not just babies.
Oh, different ages, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, adolescents, like teenage years, they'll be taking that periodically, and they know. I mean, when the abductee experiencer walks in to the room that they've been taken into, all of a sudden they'll say, "These children are coming in." There might be 5 or 6 of them, different ages, and they'll go. They get emotional. And they'll say, "I think they're mine." They feel that they're theirs, mm-hmm. and they're there for a reason. Mm-hmm. And they'll describe them. Some taller than the others, and some have hair, some not. Some are male, some are female. It's very emotional. I mean, I almost cried during some of the sessions in the beginning when I started doing this.
I can imagine. And do they see other experiencers when they're up there?
Oh, yes. Yes, often. And in my book, Coronado, because there are a dozen of my CERO members abducted together, they remember seeing one another in a particular room. And even before that case even happened, in our early meetings with CERO, people they look across the room and they'll say, you look really familiar to me. And I was just amazed when that kept happening. And some of them had discovered that they were abducted together. Some of them discovered later that they were abducted as children. They knew each other as children, but up there, not down here.
Sure. What do you say?
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody that thinks they might have been abducted?
I say, if you want to reach out for help or to look into this, if it's been bothering you and you're having a hard time thinking of anything else that's affecting your work and your life, you could go to my website, and it's hypnotherapist YvonneSmith.com. And you have that on the screen.
Yes, I will.
Okay. there's information there. There's questionnaires. Like I said, I get people from all over the country. I am now, because of COVID, and we all had to be on lockdown, and abductions did not stop during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I had to reinvent myself, like a lot of us did, and now I'm offering Zoom sessions, Zoom consultations, and Zoom sessions for people that are outside of California, where I'm located, if they wish to do that, or I could try to refer them to a therapist in their area, but they're few and far between right now.
And can you share with us one abduction that sticks out in your mind, that you regressed?
Oh gosh, there's so many. One of them, I think it's in my book Chosen. One, she became a CERO member. She was my client, became a CERO member. She had the classic pregnancies, and she was shown the baby, and the baby was taken away, and she was so distraught. And then she's looked over and she saw another woman on the table, and she said, "Oh my gosh, this poor woman, she's distraught too, and she's crying. They just took her baby." Well, she came to the CERO meeting like after her session, like say the few weeks after, and there was another member, a new member as well, and she looked across the room and she came over to me and she said, "Oh my God," she said, "Yvonne, I think that's the woman that was on the table next to me."
Wow.
And I'm getting chills now. And I think I did write about that in Chosen, not using the other person's name, but I think they did connect, they did talk. But can you imagine? And people have done that. They could remember seeing somebody on board, and then they see him down here.
Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't want to give you nightmares, Charlotte.
That's okay. I already have them. It's cool. It's not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you so much. What's next for you?
Well, oh my gosh. And I'll be announcing it on my website and my social media sites. But CERO, members of CERO, myself, we're writing the CERO anniversary book now.
Okay. Cool.
Which, as soon as it's published, I'll make an announcement. I might be at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's a lot. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We're also filming currently our documentary featuring myself and several CERO members, and it's about an 8-month project, long project, but it's showing the personal side of everyone. How they are at home. They have families, they have children, they have pets, but yet they have this experience. But they're as normal as anybody that you're working with, or your neighbor, or because it could be anybody. So that project most likely will be ready after the first of the year, but we're very excited about it because it's going to really paint a real picture of abductees, experiencers, and who they are and what they go through, in life. And I'm also going to be writing a book about the family connection. As I said, it runs in families. So I'm going to be writing about the different families that I've worked with. So that's another project. And hopefully this will all, it'll all work out, all come out, and I'll make announcements. But thank you so much, Charlotte, for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I'd love to have you on again.
I would love to. Maybe I could bring one of my CERO members on with me.
That would be great.
Okay, Charlotte.
All right, well,
thank you.
You have a good rest of the evening, okay?
You too.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was cool. I learned a lot. Boy, that's what this show's all about, is to be educated and learn a lot. I learned a lot about one of my friends tonight, too. I'm not going to say the name. You know your name. Okay. Anyway, welcome. I want to thank everybody for coming on. If you haven't seen the show before, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have great guests like this on all the time. Last night we had a gentleman on talking about the SR-71 Blackbird in Area 51. So we have varying topics on this show. If you're watching from YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. You know, the more subscribers, the merrier. And it's that little ghost down at the bottom right-hand corner with the Sherlock Holmes hat on and the magnifying glass. And if you really like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio, and we're trying to get the word out about our show. Our podcast numbers have gone through the roof, and we're really excited about that right now. But we're trying to build up YouTube. You know, the algorithms haven't been kind to us, and they show us no love. So, the more the merrier that can subscribe. I want to thank everybody. If you want to check out our other videos that we've done show-wise, you can check it out at CaliforniaHauntsRadio.com. Or you can actually try and find our YouTube page, and the easiest way to do that would be California Haunts on YouTube, and maybe type in the title of this video, and that'll take you to that page. There's over 250 videos over there. If you want to check out the paranormal team, that's at CaliforniaHaunts.org. Okay? Like I said earlier in the show, it's like she was saying, just like with what she's doing, there's no funding for any of this stuff. It's just we do it for free. We do it to inform people. And so if something breaks, then it has to come out of my pocket. And unfortunately, things do break. And it's, that's just the way how life is. But we do take donations as a team. We never charge for our services. If you could find it in your heart to donate to help us keep this show on the air and keep us going here, that would be great. That's at paypal.me at California Haunts. Or if you're uncomfortable with PayPal, go to Venmo and just type in California Haunts, and you can find us that way as well. Like I said, it all goes back in for equipment. It's not personal use, anything like that. It goes in for equipment for the paranormal group and to keep the show on, whether it's computers, headphones, or whatever we need. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. I'm going to show you her contact information as well as the 2 books she has out, plus the video that she has out. So you guys can try and pick those up. And, of course, those are available at Amazon. So let me go ahead and do that. And there it is. Websites, hypnotherapist YvonneSmith.com. And the book is Chosen, Recollections of UFO Abductions. The other book is Coronado. And Hybrid 101, I believe, is the video. It could be wrong. I can't read it. One contact in. It's an issue. And that's the video you can get. And that's, of course, available at Amazon. Tomorrow, we are going to be going on early at noon Pacific because our guest lives in Sweden. So we're going to be talking to him. And he is an interesting gentleman. His name is Carl Abramson. Carl Abramson was good friends with Anton LaVey. And who's Anton LaVey? Anton LaVey is the founder of the Church of Satan. And he has written a book about his friend Anton LaVey. And so we're going to be interviewing him tomorrow. And that'll be at 12 noon. So I hope to see you all there, or as many of you as possible. And, of course, for the people that are working and can't make the show, of course, you can see the replay either on YouTube or on Facebook. But please join us tomorrow at noon. So I'm going to let you all go. So you guys have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow at noon Pacific time. Have a